Part 7, Spotting Lonely Colleagues. Despite knowing the at-risk groups that we've spoken about in previous videos, it's not always easy to spot a colleague who is feeling lonely, as feelings of loneliness are personal, as they're subjective, and people who are experiencing loneliness often don't want to say how they're feeling out of embarrassment or fear of how they're going to be perceived. However, developing a culture where loneliness is seen as a normal human emotion and a personal response to an unwanted situation can help dispel the stigma. People need to realize that it's not a personal failing to feel lonely, nor is it something to be embarrassed about. We can all feel lonely at any point in our lives. And the causes and experience of loneliness can vary from person to person. Loneliness is actually just a subjective and an unwelcome feeling of lack or loss of companionship, which happens when there is a mismatch between the quantity and quality of the social relationships that we have and those that we want. And that's been well researched, including by Perryman and Perplow in 1981. So common signs to look out for if colleagues are frequently unwell, or get stuck on the negative side, or spending more time alone, or appearing distant from their colleagues, or being less productive at work, all signs of potentially loneliness. Or being ill more frequently. Julia Holt-Lundstad's meta-analysis shows that the impact of chronic loneliness on physical health includes things like poor cardiovascular function, such as high blood pressure, increased risk of coronary heart disease, impaired immune system, decreased memory and learning, and a struggle in fighting off smaller illnesses due to increased stress levels. And then the psychological effects of loneliness, which can include a loss of self-confidence and self-esteem, increased sensitivity to social rejection, and an increased risk of stress, depression, and anxiety. Although loneliness is not a mental health problem, feeling lonely can affect our mental health, and having a mental health problem can also increase our likelihood of experiencing loneliness. The psychological and behavioral effects of loneliness are closely linked. So feelings that can be evoked include fear, sadness, emptiness, and helplessness. In turn, our behavior might change as we withdraw from others and avoid social situations, which can in turn increase our feelings of loneliness. So it's a bit of a cycle. Daily routines and self-care can also become harder to maintain when we don't have social support around us. But really, probably the best way to know if someone is experiencing loneliness at work is to talk about it, to bring it up sensitively with your team member, your colleague, perhaps as part of regular one-to-one conversations or meetings that you have with them. Connected colleague relationships are linked with higher well-being, greater engagement, improved performance, and a sense of being valued. So it really is worth investing and spotting those lonely colleagues and coming alongside them, supporting them, and seeing what we can do to connect with them and to help them feel more connected to the organization. Keep listening for more tips on how to combat loneliness in the workplace. Thank you for listening.